If you're anything like most people, you probably find it difficult to save money. Whether that's because you earn too little or spend too much, or realistically, probably a bit of both if we're being honest. But it's no secret that as life gets harder and more expensive, it's becoming increasingly difficult to save no matter how much money you make or how disciplined you are. Personally, I've even tried growing a money tree, but it hasn't worked so far. Setting large goals, like hitting your first $100,000 or saving up a down payment on a home, can feel particularly daunting. Enough so that a lot of people have just given up on trying altogether. And while I wouldn't personally condone being a quitter or giving up on the things that are important to you, I do kinda get it. Like, why deprive yourself of every little source of joy in life, all in pursuit of something that feels completely unattainable or that in the best case scenario will take years and years to achieve? But in actuality, you don't need to save up $1 million or even $100,000 to completely change your life. In fact, saving just $10,000 can open up a world of opportunity for you that you never thought was possible. And for most people, this is completely attainable, often within just a year or two. For most of us, $10,000 is enough to cover several months of living expenses, at least 2 to 3 months, if not a lot more depending on where you live. That means that with $10,000 saved, you now have an emergency fund that can protect you if all hell breaks loose. Whether you get hurt, get fired, get knocked up, or get knocked out, you now have time to get back on your feet and figure out the next steps. And you would be shocked to realize how much stress relief you experience when you have that safety net. You relax your shoulders, you unclench your teeth, you sleep better at night. You let go of all this tension that you didn't even realize you were carrying because you're so used to balancing on the edge of a razor blade when shit hits the fan. And it will. $10,000 is enough to cover not all, but most unexpected expenses. And I would even go as far as to say that most unexpected expenses that exceed $10,000 are probably, hopefully, going to be things that your insurance covers, or they're going to be things that are so serious that money is truly the least of your concerns. Unexpected car repair? $10,000 should more than cover it. Emergency vet bill? $10,000 should more than cover it. Need to suddenly fly across the country to be with a sick family member? $10,000 should more than cover it. Suddenly, things that could be a crisis become just an annoyance, at least on the financial side, and more importantly, you don't have to go into debt to deal with them. Put a finger down if you ever moved into a house just to have the AC go on the fritz 5 days later. Put a finger down if you ever drove a little too fast over the train tracks in a car that was a little too old and rusty and the suspension just broke off. Put a finger down if you've ever had to pay $400 to the emergency animal hospital because your dog is a glutton and he swallowed a large chunk of a bully stick without properly chewing it and he started choking. So you reached down his throat and you dislodged the bully stick and you forced him to puke it out, which thankfully he did, but then he started panicking and gagging and foaming at the mouth and you thought he was bloating and dying, so you rushed him to the ER and sat waiting for him for 3 hours in the freezing car in the middle of January during a global pandemic, not knowing if he was dead or alive, only to be told that he just scratched his throat a little bit and was being a weenie about it and was going to be just fine. And well, you know what would have been worse than paying for all of that? Not having the money to pay for any of it and having to put it all on a credit card with a 25% interest rate. All of those things happened years ago, but if I had put it on a credit card, I would actually still be making payments on it today, which is crazy. Not only that, but saving your first $10,000 is a great way to get yourself into the habit of saving money. And it really is a habit. If you've never saved up a significant nest egg before, it's very likely that you've become a little bit too comfortable with being broke. You've become a little bit too used to living paycheck to paycheck. It feels normal, but it shouldn't. Hitting a milestone like $10,000 saved empowers you to recognize that you really can save money. You're very capable of doing it. And I know that personally, when I hit my first $10,000, I was so excited to just keep going and hit my first $20,000 and then $50,000 and then eventually $100,000. Saving that first $10,000 basically showed me that I am capable of getting whatever I want, and it actually kind of gamified the experience of saving money for me. Watching the number in my bank account grow a little every time I got paid was way more fun than buying most things. Saving money became a default habit rather than an act of self-control. And well, if you've been following me for a while, you know that one of my absolute favorite ways to save money is by cutting out unnecessary subscription services. If you use something a lot and get value from it, that's great. But all the monthly fees for every streaming service, every membership, and every app can add up really quickly, which is why I'm thrilled to have Setapp as the sponsor for this video. Setapp is the ultimate place to get apps for Mac and iPhone users. Setapp gives you access to literally hundreds of iOS and macOS apps for just one affordable monthly fee, saving you from spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars each year on individual subscriptions to every app you need. For example, I use the Downy app to download all my little cartoon inserts and memes. I use Clean My Mac to keep my computer running fast, and I use Session to keep myself focused while editing videos. With SetApp, I get access to all of these and more for just one monthly fee rather than having to pay for them all. Best of all is that if I need an app for something specific, SetApp can help me quickly find one that will do whatever I need it to without costing me anything extra. One price, hundreds of apps, saving you time and money. Check out SetApp at the link in the description box down below, and thanks again to SetApp for sponsoring this video. So saving is one side of this, but let's talk about spending. Because when you have $10,000 saved, you have options. Suddenly, that thing that you kind of always wanted but have denied yourself of becomes within reach, because now you can actually afford it. Spending money a little frivolously is way more permissible when you actually have the money to spend. Speaking of which, I actually made a whole video about this a few weeks ago. I'll link to it up top. But the point is that spending money on things, treating yourself from time to time, is really only a problem if you're going into debt for it. If your bills are paid and you have some savings, you're free to have some fun without that nagging sense of guilt you feel when you know you're spending money you don't have.
Shut up, brain, or I'll stab you with a Q-tip.
Want to go out to dinner with friends? Want to go to a concert? Want to go on a trip? Now you can, and logically, if you were able to save $10,000 the first time, you should be able to pretty quickly replenish that money once you spend some of it, so no harm, no foul. Personally, I recently dropped $300 on a ticket to go see Green Day, which is admittedly an absurd amount of money to spend on a concert ticket. It was the most I've ever spent, and it was definitely hard to stomach. For months, I thought about it, and I flip-flopped back and forth, and ultimately, I decided, you know what? I'm not in debt, I have some savings, I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. So I did, and I had fun. Most people would say that that's an insane amount of money to spend on a single concert ticket. And I can't disagree, because it is. But consider this. If I had even just $10,000 saved, that concert ticket only makes up a mere 3% of the money in my savings, which is really not so bad. If I had no savings and I had to go into debt for it, that would be a whole different situation. But beyond all of this, the most important thing that you gain access to when you have even a relatively small amount of money, like $10,000 saved, is the ability to say no, which is why people call it FU money. When you're broke, you're often forced to do things that you absolutely do not want to do because you can't afford not to. That could mean taking a job that you absolutely hate. It could mean having to work overtime hours. It could even mean being stuck in a toxic or abusive relationship just because you can't afford to leave. $10,000 gives you the ability to say, F you, I'm out of here, because you can take care of yourself and you're not desperate.
Okay, that's it. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
When I was younger and I had no money, I always felt like I was at the mercy of other people. I was always afraid to speak up for myself because I couldn't endure the consequences. I worked terrible hours at terrible jobs for pitiful wages because I couldn't risk being fired or taken off the schedule for saying, no, I'm not going to work back-to-back close open shifts for the next 2 weeks. Or no, I'm not going to work outside in a thunderstorm. Or no, you don't have the right to speak to me like that. So I kept my head down and my mouth shut while the resentment just festered inside of me. If I had had some money in the bank, I would have had the confidence to advocate for myself because I could afford to take the risk. And finally, let's talk about investing. The easiest and most efficient way to grow your money is by investing, by letting compound interest do its thing, so over time your savings doubles and triples and quadruples over and over again without you really having to do anything. But of course, you need at least some money to start with. Investing just $10,000 one time, never adding to it ever again, would result in you having over $100,000 in 30 years' time. And let's break it down like this. If your goal was to save that first $10,000 over the span of the next 2 years, that works out to $416 a month. But if you continue to save and invest $416 a month even after you hit that $10,000, you'd have more than $700,000 in 30 years. Little side tangent here, but that means that if you have kids and you invested $10,000 for each of them at the time that they're born and never added to it or touched it again, they would each have $100,000 to their name by the age of 30, which can help to set them up for life. It can help them to buy a home, it can help them to start a business, or just pay off all their student loans, or really whatever else. Just something to think about.
Oh, I have 3 kids and no money. Why can't I have no kids and 3 money?
But the point of all of this is to realize that small attainable goals are equally important, if not even more important, than big lofty ones. In fact, the key to achieving any big goal is actually just to break it down into smaller, more reasonable goals. And even those small attainable goals can be way more impactful than you think. Like, you don't have to bench press 500 pounds to stay in shape, you don't have to own a Lamborghini to drive to work, and you don't have to be wealthy to gain financial stability. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys in this one, but as always, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. If there's a specific financial goal that you're working towards, let me know in the comments what it is and how long you think it's going to take you to get there and what you're going to do once you do. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead, hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You can follow me on Instagram. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you next time.